Welcome to the Fran Snyder Podcast, where I talk to artists and music fans to explore how music connects us through great stories and experiences. Brought to you by Listening Room Network. Today's guest, singer-songwriter Anne E. DeChant. And we're live with Anne E. DeChant. How are you?
Great. How are you, Fran?
Doing really well. You are in Nashville proper or nearby?
I'm in East Nashville. I'm about 10 minutes from Music Row.
Okay, so you're hanging out with all the cool kids in East Nashville.
I'm hanging out with them. They're stuck with me.
That's great. It's great to finally to chat with you after being sort of acquainted online for all this time. You've got an interesting story. You've got a really cool new video out that you're promoting. And I definitely want to ask you some questions about that. But first, quarantine, COVID hit all of us. And one of the first things that you did to shift what you could do to connect with your fans is you started
the 11:30 bathroom break. Right here.
So tell me about how that evolved. What was the inspiration for, the name and the pace at which you were doing these episodes?
Well, it was breakneck at first because we were doing it, I think we were doing it every day. And it just like as soon as we went into sheltering, it occurred to me, oh my gosh, I have to stay connected with my fans. And I don't know, Fran, I lay in bed at night and think of what I can do. And you probably do the same, like all artists do. But I just remember thinking, gosh, sounds so great in the bathroom. I've got to stay connected. And they just kind of went, and I'm like, Erin, she's my partner, and she's tech savvy. And if she doesn't know something, she finds it out. Because I tell people, like, if it weren't for her, I'd be in a ball in the corner with a six-pack, for sure. But we just figured it out, like we stayed up at night. I remember being up at like 2 or 3 in the morning, like, how do we make this sound right? And how do people do this live streaming? And we found out we ordered like our Focusrite interface online. I'm literally like at 2 or 3 in the morning. But I just wanted to stay in touch with fans. And I felt like I just needed to make it feel like they were with me, in my home, sort of behind the scenes, on a real personal level. And the bathroom sounds great. And it was right away, remember how important toilet paper was? And so that was like, we would check the toilet paper at first every day because people remember it was like the thing, the commodity. And then I just like thought like, oh, I'll talk to Siri and Alexa because I'm constantly fighting with one of them. And we just like added these elements that would help like lift people, just share one song, but talk a little bit. I'm comfortable with that. And that's why I love house concerts and what you do, because it's a comfort zone. So we dove in, Fran, before we knew we could swim, but we figured out how to swim. And we did 55 episodes of it.
Wow.
And like we released these shirts, I love you, stay the hell away from me. And we had visitors, viewers every day. And they all started to talk with each other and with us. And it kept us connected in the very, very best way. So that's how it happened. It was a figment.
And you have stopped doing those? You transitioned to a different type of program now? What are you doing now?
Yeah. So doing it every day in the midst of getting I have a best of CD coming out in October, and I was working on all of that. And it just got to be where, okay, we got to slow down a little bit and give ourselves some. So Sunday nights, I do Sunday song. I always hated Sundays when I was a kid. I don't know if you did, but I had anxiety about going back to school. And
sure,
it was just a sad day for me. So I thought I'm going to do Sunday, and just in the evening. And so that's what I'm doing now.
Gotcha. So you've got an interesting story, or a couple interesting stories. You mentioned that you played at the White House and you met Julie Andrews. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
So I narrate this children's story that my friends have written in Cleveland, and I'm the narrator on the tape, and it comes across the desk Gary Jacob, who would plan Easter at the White House. He's like, I didn't know Annie DeChant did anything with children. So he asked me to go to Easter at the White House. So we're there. And I mean, Fran, like they flew us out there. It was the first time I was like, felt like a star in the last time.
And what year was this?
Gosh, I think it was 1999.
All right. So Obama? No. Who was in?
It was Clinton.
Clinton back then. Okay.
Bill Clinton. So we go, they put me up at the Mayflower Hotel, and like we're walking in and there's like snipers on the roof and they're scanning my guitar. I mean, you felt like, ooh, you know. But the night before we were invited to a party by Gary, and Julie Andrews was going to be at Easter at the White House because she'd just come out with her first series of books.
Yeah.
It was after she had lost her voice and she started to write. So she's at this party. Well, I've got like my VHS video from my friend Sue, because she's a major fan. Well, who isn't? But so I got to get up there, you know, and plus I want to meet her. Fran, she is exactly like you would imagine. She was like, it was like talking to Maria Von Trapp. She was so perfectly poised and professional. And at one point during Easter at the White House, when she was reading, somebody said, could you sign an autograph for me? Now, this wasn't the party where I met her, and she signed it. She was lovely. But I always remember it because it was a great lesson. This guy goes, could you sign an autograph for me? And she said, oh, if I did that, I'd be here all day. And I just thought, what a perfect answer, you know, way to say, heck no. But that's Julie Andrews, man, class all the way.
Yeah. You also had a song in the Hot Flashes movie, which was kind of a fun comedy with Brooke Shields and Daryl Hannah. How did that come about? Was it a placement or sort of a previous connection that you had to someone in that movie?
It was a placement. I just had it in a music library, and I'm going through emails one day, and I get this email from Brad, and he's like, I'm going to put your song Girls and Airplanes in a film. And I was like, what? And so, yeah, it's like right in the, like this pivotal part in the movie where Brooke Shields like shoots a basket.
Yeah.
And we were invited to go, you know, and thank goodness I had a woman here who said, you go to that, you know, and you get you walk that carpet and you get your picture. And so we got to go to like the screening, and Brooke Shields sitting right in front of me. I'm thinking, it's Jade from Endless Love.
So this was the Hollywood premiere?
Yes.
Nice.
And you really did, like, you walked the red carpet. And it was then that I realized, Fran, like, people practice a lot. The girls that were in the film, the young women who were in the film, they were like, look this way. And those young women, they were like, they had their looks all like, and I was just like, I'm just happy to be here. So it was totally new. And we went to the after party, and Wanda Sykes was there with Daryl Hannah and Brooke Shields, and Aaron and I were hanging out, you know, having drinks and like shy, you know, we're at this Hollywood premiere party. And they called us over. They're like, ladies, come over, and invited us to sit with them. So there I was, and Aaron with Brooke Shields and Daryl Hannah and Wanda Sykes just hanging out on the couch.
Nice.
They were lovely. It was great.
Very nice. So you've done a decent amount of co-writing. Was that part of the appeal of Nashville? How long have you been in Nashville, and what was the prime, I don't want to say motivator, because obviously you wanted to do music, but what was the impetus? What was behind the timing of you moving to Nashville from where you grew up?
There definitely was a motivation. I was in Cleveland, and I felt like I'd done like everything that I could do there. And then I became interested in writing for the market, for other people to get cuts. Mm-hmm. And so I moved here, and I was put through the ringer, you know. I mean, you get here, and everybody here is great at what they do. I mean, they are creme de la creme. And there's there's creme de la creme throughout the country, but they congregate here primarily.
Sure.
So that was my reason. Like I never, I really never pursued heavily record labels. I did my thing at a grassroots level. It was comfortable to me. But then I just was like, I'm going to try that. You had three choices. It was New York, LA, or Nashville. And Nashville just, because it was then still smaller, it felt more comfortable to me being from a small town.
How long ago was this?
10 years.
10 years ago.
Might be going on 11. And it's been 10 years of building real relationships, like, and honing my craft. Like I've been workshop after workshop and meetings at ASCAP with Ralph Murphy and going over songs and really like boom, boom, boom. That's why I wrote the song Swing, because I felt like, I mean, just, you got to take it, you know, and you still got to hold on to what you brought to the table and try to fit into the market. And whether or not you want to change, how much you want to change to try to fit into that market. So that was why I came here. And it's taken 10 years for me to feel like I have my posse. A lot of people can walk in a room and they're like, I need to know that person, that person, that person. And that's not me. Like I'll see you across the room and think, he looks like he's nice, and gravitate to you, you know? It took me a long time, even though I heard relationships, you know, and you go, I got to get some relationships. But they feel real to me, and I feel like it's a deep well. It's a small well, but it's a deep well. So it takes time.
Excellent. And so we'll talk about your latest video in a moment, but I noticed in the video, a friend of ours, mutual friend, David G. Smith, who's a wonderful artist himself.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you two met, and is he part of your core writing group, people that you write with on a regular basis?
David and I have a song I released on my CD, The Sun Coming In, called Sunday Morning Drive. And we get together. It's not like we have like a big stash of songs, but we perform at the Bluebird together. He invites me, God bless him, to perform. And I like what he does. He does such good work with his work to help people. So I think we met through NSAI, probably at a workshop. Mm-hmm. And I don't do as much co-writing as I should. Sometimes I think I'm hard to write with. It might be a pain. I might be a pain, Fran. But not with David, but it's, you're trying to get in rooms with people who you feel like can teach you something, and maybe you can teach them something. But yeah, David and I will touch base when he's in town, but he's on the road so much now, we don't see each other a lot. But that Sunday Morning Drive was well worth it.
Excellent. And so tell us about the new song that you released as a video.
It's Change, and it was a reaction like so many songwriters, artists had to the murder of George Floyd, and then the overall problems in our country with race. And, I was doing the bathroom break, and we were doing Friday sing-along. It was Sing-Along Friday, and I needed a song, and it was time. And I thought, I'm gonna write this, and I'm gonna sing it with my fans before it's done. So I kind of invited them into the process. I wanted them to see how it wasn't perfect when you first start out. And I told them that. I said, we're going to sing this together. I'm going to teach you the chorus, but lyrics are likely to change. So I called my friend Fry Gilliard. He's on my favorite book list that you asked me about.
Yeah.
He's an author and a co-writer who's written a few now with me that I released. He's a dear friend, and he's an historian, big in the 60s here at Vanderbilt. Name it, he's interviewed them in music and politics. But I needed him to help me because, Fran, I had to write it from a perspective of who I am. And I was raised white, middle class, and I've never experienced, being pulled over in my car because it was too nice for me. because of the color of my skin. And that didn't escape me, but I think I had to ask the questions that a lot of people had to ask themselves at this point in our history. And that's what Fry and I did. Like, we sat down and said, what is our responsibility in this? And we could ask ourselves questions that I think sometimes people are afraid to ask, and because they don't want people to be angry at them. But you have to be able to say, how am I responsible for this? I don't understand. You have to be able to say that, and to be met with a response that's informative and loving and educational. And so Fry kind of stepped in, and there's a whole story about the song and how we came to understand what our responsibility, and it's basically to not be complacent and to listen, to understand the experience of race in our country, not from our point of view, because we don't know it. We don't know the stories. So that's how change happened. And then I recorded it right here in this room in front of my sink, the audio, and we recorded the video in our dining room, and then sent it over to Mike Sievers, my producer, and all the voices from around the country, included David's.
Yeah, it's fun. You were able to mix in videos of your fans basically singing the chorus with you, which is really fun.
It was so good. Fans and friends who are musicians, and they're so lovely to just be like, yeah.
If you're enjoying this podcast, can you pause for a moment to like, review, and subscribe? Please help the world discover our music community and the wonderful artists that we support. Your feedback makes a real difference. One of the things that I like about the song is it kind of explores that territory that so many white people struggle with, the idea of being responsible without being guilty. And some people just assume that being responsible or taking responsibility is some sort of admission of guilt. The fact that we participate in a system that keeps people down is, it's like a fish swimming in water. To some extent you can't help it. But the flip side, which you point out in the song, is like, you have a responsibility to keep that water clean if you can, and to do whatever little things that you can do to at least soften the system, if not totally reverse what's happening. So I think it's a great message. And I noticed this thread of sort of positivity and empowerment in a lot of your music, not just that particular song. But I love that idea of taking responsibility, without the heaviness of saying, feeling like you're guilty for your father's sins or your grandfather's sins. It's not about that. It's about dealing with the present moment. And you have an opportunity, right? Taking responsibility is an opportunity to make things better for other people.
Right. And I think that's a great way to put it, like responsible without being guilty. But I still feel like, when Wanda Sykes does her act, she says, get yourself a black friend. And I took that to heart. My sister told me about it. And I thought, yeah, Annie, like, how many black friends do you have? African American? She says black friends. And I'm like, not many, and that's a problem. That, like, we're supposed to live together, and be with each other. And so I think that's a responsibility, to try to mix it up, and get out of your comfort zone and ask yourself hard questions, but not just ask them. Like, I can't just sing a song. Like, we got to put it into action. That's why we're selling shirts that say change, and it's going to the Equal Justice Initiative, because it has to be turned into action. Can't just sing a song and have everybody feel good for a few minutes.
Right.
But I love the way you put that. It's interesting.
Well, thanks, and kudos to you for putting the song out there and bringing that kind of positivity in the world. It's great. It's great to hear. You mentioned workshops. That's one of the cool developments, aside from all the live streaming. Artists and people who are already educators stepping up and providing content to allow us during this, non-touring time to level up our skills, right? To here's the opportunity to do the work that you never seem to be able to make the time for when you're on the road, when you're doing all the other musician things. So you mentioned that you've attended some of these, attended some of these workshops. What are some of the takeaways so far? Like some of the better workshops you've done, and maybe some things that you learned that you could share.
I think I did a farm one, so the Folk Alliance Midwest region, and it was great because it was like alternatives to live streaming. And so Katie Dahl was on there, and she got this idea from a friend, and she's doing these curbside pickup songs. And so I tell everybody I know if they are asking, saying, "Oh, I can't tour," but she just goes to people's houses, and they book her online. She set up a page, and she goes out, and she says, "I sing like 3 tops," but she said, "And I ask for $20, but I show up, and everybody has to social distance properly, wear masks." And then she sings, but she also has a page where you can get it, like, if say your sister's having her birthday, you can order a curbside song concert for her, but it's just a couple songs. So Katie's like driving around in her car. And I thought that was great because we were so like stream, stream, stream. What can we do? And then that got really full. So that was really valuable. And then I did one where they were teaching you how to green screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was fun too. Charlie Mossbrook headed that up. I don't remember a dang thing about it. I'll have to watch it, watch it again. It was just fun. It's fun to like hang out with people, and then you're also hearing what they're experiencing, and it's nice to hear, that people are having some of the same challenges. You want to feel like you're not alone, because
Yeah.
it's a brand new world. But I'm just glad that people are, like what you said, people are hopping on and sharing, and you have time to do things that you wouldn't be doing right now. If you look at it that way, then it's doable.
Yeah, and that idea has been really percolating by various names all over the country. We started a thing called Music by the Yard, right? It's the same idea. Maybe try to get some sort of a guarantee, like $100 or whatever, for the artist to come out, do a handful of songs. Again, could be curbside, but it could also be, back porch, front porch, whatever is comfortable for the hosts. Joe Crookston did a couple of those, I think pro bono where he lives. They just set up a little coffee table at the end of the entry to the house, and they put a cookie and a glass of water for him and a little chair. He showed up and just sat in the chair, played a couple songs for them, and took off. So I imagine he ate the cookie too.
Like Santa Claus.
So yeah, I think there's so many opportunities to be creative, to continue to do music as a service, even if you're not making an outright living at it at the moment. The few shows that I've done, socially distant shows, I'm a real fan of the intimacy of indoor concerts. I really don't like outdoor stuff a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I did it. And before I started, there was a woman who was, thanking me almost in tears because she just was missing music so much, was missing gatherings. Even if we're 6 feet away, she was still just so grateful to have that experience and that opportunity. And it just lit me right up. But, I was kind of like, I was going to suffer through this gig, but she cheered me right up. I was like, okay, yeah, this is bigger than me. This is bigger than the song. This, reminds you that this is about community. It's about people. It's about connection. And we're going to get that one way or another.
You're good at it, Fran. You're good at seeing that larger picture that comes through with what you're doing with Listening Room Network. You're an advocate for us. I tell people these house concerts are our saving grace.
Mm.
They are, and you stepped up, and the fact that you're able to listen to that woman and have empathy, and then turn it into, this is why I'm here.
Mm.
That's it.
Yeah, that intimacy, I think it's one of the things that artists point to all the time. Nowhere do you get such a consistent, heartfelt feedback from what you do as a musician as you do when you're in somebody's home. And the people there have the warmth of an invitation rather than a ticket. You know, they were personally invited by somebody, most likely, to be there.
Yeah. I find it sometimes it's more uncomfortable for me even in a larger setting because it is so intimate and you gotta for me I have to sort of settle into it because it's like all these people are up close and they're happy to be there, but I have to settle into it and then I'm good.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's harder to sing for 3 people than it is for 300 people.
Oh, absolutely. The smaller crowd, the more intimate it is, and the more, you face that, undeniable connection. You can't play at people. They're a part of it. You can't look at the wall above their head when there's only one person in front of you,
Right.
right? If you're playing a theater, you could be looking, past the back row and nobody can tell. But when it's you and somebody sitting on the couch next to you, it's the most awkward thing in the world.
But and it's the best thing in the world. Like you should be looking at them. You know,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
there for them, and that's a good reminder of it. Being in a
yeah,
house concert, like
yeah.
really, how good are you at communicating? You
Yep.
figure that out fast.
Yeah, and as you know, we've sort of pivoted past couple of years. We realized pretty early on, the site used to be called Concerts in Your Home because of my love for house concerts. But from the early days, there was always a section, a subgroup of our house concerts that weren't really houses. It was the basement of a church, the clubhouse of an apartment complex. There were all these sort of variations on the house concert theme, and we realized that number one, our core values are that listening environment and a living wage for the artist. But it also became clear that we wanted to support public venues that offer a listening room environment as well. So it's really important to us with the Listening Room Network. That's why we changed the name. Focus on the core value, not the shape of the building, not whether people live there. As much as I love house concerts, we need public spaces. We need them to survive and thrive, especially in this time. I really want to, shine light on those places. So I'm curious for you, do you have one or two of your favorite public places to play where you feel respected and connected?
I always felt respected and connected at the Barking Spider on the east side of Cleveland,
Yeah.
um, which it's no longer. Um, but that was the room. I mean, that was the room where Martin, who owned it, said each person gets $20 plus tips. And then they passed that tip jar around like it was church,
Yeah.
and but it was a small place. I started singing, I was a backup singer there in the 90s for a singer-songwriter. Then I started to write,
Mhm.
but it was this little room with one of those metal, like acorn like fireplaces. And it probably held like 20 people, small bar, beer, wine only. He loved music. And when you walked in for sound check, he was playing this eclectic mix always. And you knew he just loved it. He actually, well, then he doubled his size like years later, but he never lost the feel of it, right?
Yeah.
It was on a campus, Case Western campus. But Martin, he literally walked up to somebody during a show, and I heard him say, "You need to be quiet. This is not about you." like, but I mean, every time he was coming with that. And then
Yeah.
his daughter took over after he passed on, Jenna, and she was the same way. I mean,
Yeah.
they're like you, like they're there for the songwriter. And it just had this, it was wooden, and he had art from people from around the community who were good. And this patio, and I loved that it was just beer and wine. I love a place like that. Give me that all day. But and it was just warm, and they opened the French doors. It used to be a carriage house, and they'd open these French doors that he converted onto the patio. It was the very best. People hung on your words, and as that's what you know this. I don't have to tell you.
Yeah, absolutely.
The barking spider.
And what about Nashville? Is there a place recently that you enjoy playing?
Of course, I love the Bluebird. That's usually a round format. So lately, Delgado Guitars here in East Nashville does Music Maker Stage. Julie Delgado heads that up, and Manuel and she run the guitar shop. He's my luthier. So they opened up this new venue, again, small, but they're kicking it. And I like it because you get a set. It's not the round format is what goes on here, but I like to get into a rhythm, and I like to build a show. I want it to be a show. So I like a Music Maker Stage right now. It's my new favorite.
Excellent. So if you're listening to the podcast instead of the YouTube video, Annie is wearing a shirt that says, "I love you. Stay the hell away from me," which is just brilliant. I'm wearing my Kira Small 3 a.m. t-shirt. She's
all right, Kira.
Yeah,
I love her.
Awesome. Annie, it's been a real delight chatting with you, getting to know you a little bit. We will share your website and the link to your video for Change in the show notes. Any closing thoughts where you'd like people to check out your stuff other than those two?
I'd love them to check out Change and share it. Share it. And also, Fran, really, thank you again. Thank you for doing what you do. And I'm going to get to St. Petersburg. I tromped around there a bit and see you live in person.
Yes, definitely coffee, if not a show.
That would be awesome. And thank you. I know artists all over so appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks so much, Annie. Look her up online, check out the video, and keep in touch with her. She does a lot of fun, empowering music. Have a great day, Annie.
See you later.
Thanks for listening to the Fran Snyder Podcast. Please subscribe, like, or share to help your friends discover our community. Also, I'd love to hear from you with any feedback or suggestions that you have. You can email me at fran@listeningroomnetwork.com. Fran Snyder Podcast, brought to you by Listening Room Network and TrueFire.com. Learn, practice, play.